welcome back to Coaches at Crown Brew Getting Coffee. I've got a great guest today, Jessie Crabtree, MHS legend, athlete, as well as now a very successful coach at Marian High School. I want to thank Crown Brew for letting us be here today. I want to thank Ross and Abby for what they do to make this possible. I want to thank those guys at Marian Plumbing and Tony Gooch for all your residential and commercial plumbing needs. Tony Gooch is the guy to see. My buddies at Adrenaline Fundraising, Matt and Jeff will take care of all your fundraising needs, no matter the size of your organization, sport, whatever you need. Those guys can take care of you. And don't forget, Ross does the Swinford Weddings videography. If you have a wedding coming up or know someone that does, Ross will put some information up on the screen for you to get in touch with them. And Jessie, welcome.
Thank you.
Good to have you today. One of the most decorated athletes in MHS history. We're going to kind of cover her resume as we go through something a little bit different. You're now coaching the girls' soccer team at Marian High School, and you had an amazing season. And the best part, I think, of it was you have a young team.
Very.
So tell me about the run you had this year with this team.
It was good. It was exciting.
Yeah.
Started out, I knew they were going to be decent. They all had soccer knowledge previous. I wasn't building fundamentals necessarily.
Yeah.
Expanding on what they already knew. We ended up winning conference, won regionals after that, lost a triad, which we've seen them before.
Yeah.
Definitely closer. But
Yeah.
first year that I think Marian Girls Soccer has won regionals and conference in the same year.
Oh, wow.
So that was exciting.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank
so
you.
going in, you knew you were going to be pretty good, but the best seasons are when you get surprised, right?
Yeah.
What do you think, what was the difference between what you expected and what you got?
So I knew that the youth could be an issue
Yeah.
because you end up having the skill work, but maybe not the soccer IQ.
Wow.
And I was pleasantly surprised after we started going that they adapted well to formational changes. And you know, IQ is one of those things you almost have to teach.
Yeah.
There's a maturity level that exists.
Sure. And experience.
Yeah.
They just need to play sometimes to get that.
Yeah, they blew my mind.
That's great. I often think, people always ask me in football about size and speed and this and that. And I always say, the one thing I never get asked about is the intelligence. And it isn't just book smart in the classroom, but I mean on the field, you called it IQ on the field, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
When you can make adjustments. And I'm not an expert in soccer in any way. So how does having smart players, how does that translate, in what way does that translate to success on the field?
I mean, soccer's a lot of proactive, being in the right place at the right time and reading the game break down. I think that's synonymous with football.
Yeah.
So being able to read the play prior to, it comes from watching and being around the game.
Yeah.
Where could the ball bounce? Where could that girl run?
Yeah.
If you read that,
Yeah.
that's hard to teach somebody.
It is. And isn't it interesting? Athletes do get better at it, but you run across some kids sometimes that just flat have an innate ability to do that.
Yeah.
And that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
We call that in football, we say they got a nose for the ball. My son-in-law, Dustin Borum, has a school record for tackles in a season. And he just had a way of getting from point A to point B where the ball was. I didn't teach him that. Wimbo, I'm sure, helped him with that, but he had a natural instinct. He and his brother Derek both about how to get to the ball. They were always around it, so I know you can appreciate that, having players that can do that. How important is angles? In our game, in football, taking the right angle to cut off a player or cover a route is big. I assume in soccer, knowing the right angle to take is a big deal.
Absolutely.
And are there things you do to teach that part of it?
Yeah, just trying to educate them on why that angle actually benefits you. We won't go into too much detail in terms of like the fundamental breakdown of soccer, but it's a game of triangles more or less.
Okay.
And it's also very synonymous with football or basketball where you're driving players towards a specific area on the field. And in order to do that, you're funneling them by taking a specific angle.
Awesome. Oh, I appreciate that. I need an education on this because I watch it more than I ever have, but I still don't understand the nuances and the strategies behind it, so that really helps. Let's talk about your childhood. You grew up in Marian?
I did.
Got a big family?
Big family.
How many kids?
Seven.
Seven total. How has that impacted you, or did it impact you being in a family of so many individual siblings? Was athletics a part of everything you guys did from the beginning?
Yeah, Yeah, we were very involved. I mean, summer, fall, you name it, starting at a young age. Always Marian Marlin swim team through and through, the lovely Marian softball, baseball leagues, T-ball, all growing up.
Yeah. Did you compete amongst each other quite a bit with each other? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're little, when you're young, what stood out? Like, what did you like the most of all the things you were doing? I know you were good in swimming, but what else did you start gravitating to, or did you have a favorite?
Softball.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed softball as a young kid. I wanted to be a little bit more physically active during the game, and it's not to dismiss softball and the physicality it takes.
No, I got you.
But definitely wanted more. Started the MBA, which was the Marian Basketball Association at the time.
Yeah.
Started to fall in love with that, and I think that was a big love of mine all through junior high was basketball.
Wow. Interesting. We'll talk about what you played as we get into high school, but you went through the grade school part. You're playing a lot of sports in Marion. You go to junior high. Then you get to high school. High school can force you to make some tough choices about what you're going to play. And you decided not to play softball. Just because you mentioned earlier, what was the conflict? Was just schedule-wise?
Yeah, too much overlap.
Yeah, too much overlap with?
Both of them. You end up giving 50% to both teams. You're never 100% for one, so it ended up, track was easier. It's more of an individual. You start trying to overlap two team sports, you're doing yourself a disservice and a discredit towards the team if you're there 50% of the time.
What were your events in track?
Mile, 2 mile, 4x8, 4x4.
Distance runner. Yeah, which ties in great with soccer. Do you have any idea in a given soccer game, match, what do they call it? Match?
Either one.
How far does the average player run in a soccer match? If they play the whole game, do they ever equate that, or how much running that is?
They do. So midfielders, which are going to be your positions that do the most, is 9 to 11 miles. Your defense and your forwards are closer between 4 and 6.
Are you serious? Mm-hmm. Oh my, that is amazing. So 18 letters. I assume that's a school record.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So congratulations. That is a big deal. My older brother, I brag on him all the time. I think he had 11. So 18, when I heard that number, when you sent that to me, I was like, wow, that is unbelievable. So let's run through it. Tell us what those 18 letters came in.
So freshman, sophomore year was cross-country, basketball, soccer, track.
Okay.
Then junior, senior year, it was cross-country, swim team, basketball, soccer, track.
Wow. Yeah. So what was the challenge, other than the obvious, what was the challenge of doing all of that?
The fall was the hardest, and it was mainly academia. So the fall was the hardest, but I had Jenna Griffith was my coach growing up. She would run with me in the morning before school.
Ah.
And then I would go after school to swim team at West Frankfort. I would drive separately to the bus because I had club soccer practice in St. Louis that I would do 2 or 3 days a week. So it was getting the homework done.
Yeah.
I have vivid memories of putting math homework from Mr. Stevens or something in my passenger seat. And I'd grab food from wherever I wanted, and I would do the homework while I was driving home from St. Louis.
We do not
made it work.
We do not recommend that.
No, I wouldn't do it.
There's texting and driving.
This was way worse.
This is homework and driving. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, so as a coach, I know what recovery means. I'm a big guy, and I became a big believer in my athletes in having time to recover. How did you recover? How did your body get rest or replenish itself? Did you have to do certain things to make that happen?
By the time I hit college, I think at a young age or a youthful age, you end up having recovery that happens naturally that you take for granted. You get to college, you get a little bit older.
Yeah.
They live, die, and breathe off of ice baths and heat ice, depending on what we were doing. Strength training, we were ice bathing, and then during season, if we were trying to get some of that lactic acid out, we would ice bath and then heat.
When that was introduced to you at the college level, were you like, I don't need to do that? Or did you know, I better do this?
When I couldn't get in my bed the first week of college soccer, I knew I needed to do it.
So was that the first time you ever said,
I'm sore?
I'm sore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Because it's amazing that you went through all those other things and really didn't have an issue with recovery. And that's, to be young again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Let's talk about the academic side. You're an outstanding student. And I know you paid the price of studying as you drove around, but you were in your mind, you knew sports was not the long term, not going to be the life thing.
Correct.
So you chose a career path as an optometrist. Was that something you knew from an early age, that I'm going to follow my father and into that career path?
Well, I think you'll like this story anyway, or appreciate it. When I was in second grade, we did What Do You Want to Be When You Grow Up?
Yeah.
You did the big cardboard cutout,
Yeah.
you put your face on it, and you drew whatever costume, outfit, occupation.
Yeah.
I drew Dan Marino. I was diehard. I was set.
Yeah.
And Dad said no. Killed my dreams.
Really?
Yeah.
He said, no, can't do that.
No, I'm not going to play in the NFL. So I said, I'll do what you
Dream
do.
stealer.
Yep.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, I knew that I would follow what he did. He
Yeah.
seemed to love it, and I grew to love it, definitely.
Yeah. Well, your family is kind of branched into a lot of areas of healthcare. I mean, that's a really cool thing, that they may not all be in the eye doctor business, but they're certainly in the healthcare industry and doing some really cool things, and I appreciate that. Tell me the impact, or what impact coaches had on you at a young age, high school, into college. Were you thinking of coaching at all at that time? No. So, as a coach today, can you see pieces of other coaches you've borrowed from over the years, things you learned?
It reminds me of parenting.
Yeah.
You pick out the good, the bad, and the ugly that worked for you. But the only difference is you start getting into some of these different kids. I had to learn very early on in coaching, not everyone is the same.
Yep.
Not everyone is me or you.
That's right.
And so I definitely picked up bits and pieces from coaches that I had in the past. Great ones, and the ones that maybe I didn't respond as well to but should have.
Yeah.
And try to at least get that through in my coaching now.
I'll even go, great answer by the way, but I also think there's something to the fact that I had some coaches, a few, that were not so good, and I learned a whole bunch of things I knew I wasn't going to do. And
I was trying not to mention that, but yeah,
but I
definitely.
wouldn't say their names, but you know, I mean, there was always a few that, and maybe it was just their style. I don't know. Maybe it just didn't. But I was like, you know, I'm not going to carry that with me. But I thought at a young age, I had a kind of a similar, but in some ways different story, that I can't believe I didn't realize I was going to end up a coach, because I was heavily influenced by coaches. I started coaching the year I left high school, youth football, but still it wasn't in my mind as a career until a few years later than that, so kind of different. So what comes most natural to you as a coach? Because my big question is, elite athletes don't always transfer into coaching well, because the challenge is the athletes may not have the drive and determination, the work ethic that you had and you understood matters, and then when they don't have it, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
How do you manage that?
Like I said, I think very early on, I was coaching up for a club program up in St. Louis. It was Gallagher, and it's a well-known program. And I was treating every player on the field like I would have responded as a player.
Yeah.
And I started to figure out, you know, there are some individuals that respond a lot better when you pull them to the side and you give them a compliment first and you fix the little things.
Yeah.
And there are other players that want me to yell at them. And there are other players that want me to just break it down when they come off the field. So I learned very early on that I had to be more adaptable as a coach.
Yeah.
As a player, I could be selfish as I wanted, because whatever I responded to was on me. As a coach, there's more selflessness involved because I have to keep in mind their personality. So it's definitely a learning curve.
That is such. I look for nuggets in these podcasts that are just for every athlete, for every coach listening. You just did it. That was fantastic, because I think I had to learn that too. I didn't learn it as early as you did, but I started in a different era of kind of old school coaching.
Yeah.
The old school days where it's kind of command and control. I'm the boss. You're the player. Do what I say. Aye, captain. And then over time, things changed.
Yeah.
Kids changed. Societies changed. I had to make an adaptation to that, realizing that when I yell at that kid, he moves mountains. I yell at that kid, he's done. And I had to make sure I understood that. And you're right. And it may seem unfair to be harder verbally on this kid, but he needs that. And this kid doesn't get yelled at as much. He can't, it just doesn't respond to it. I was not someone that responded well to someone yelling and screaming at me. That didn't work for me. But you put your arm around me and you tell me, you're not doing what I need you to do, I was moved by that. So I appreciate you learning that at such a young age. So let's go back a second. So you're this really, really good athlete. And you mentioned to me that you were thinking basketball was going to be your sport. Let's talk about that process, where you thought you might go, a letter of intent. Did you sign a letter of intent?
I did not. Okay,
you were close. Let's talk about that situation. So for basketball, where did you plan on going?
TCU.
Okay. Why TCU?
My freshman year, my dad was great about it. We sent out letters and videos. I had played AAU club basketball for several years. We had gone to nationals, and we started getting into the idea of, okay, your freshman year, you've got to start reaching out to people. This is on you. And we had written and sent videos and did different things, and we heard back from TCU, and they kind of mentioned offers and different things. So this was my first experience. It's almost the honeymoon stage of collegiate athletics in mind.
Exciting though, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So I thought I could make purple work, and I'm going to go TCU, and basketball is going to be it. And it ended up just taking a different direction.
So let's talk about that different direction.
Okay.
You had that plan, and then what happened?
Started playing club soccer really between freshman and sophomore year up in St. Louis, just outside of Southern Illinois soccer, and it was going okay. It was going well. I was halfway decent at the sport. And then
had you not played a lot?
So we played growing up. I started in 3rd, 4th grade, somewhere in that area, and we played Marian League, and we did the All-Stars, and we did some of those things, but club soccer, no. No.
I didn't know that.
Freshman year.
Okay, so you start, and you mentioned you went to a showcase?
Yeah, so it was going fairly well, and sophomore year, started playing more club, and the fall of my sophomore year, I got hurt, actually. Coach Gene Watson wasn't a huge fan because I went to this showcase during basketball season.
Oh, yeah.
It was over a weekend in Memphis.
Right.
And we got we got to play in the Memphis Stadium. We were the big team to go watch for whatever reason, and the game went well for me, and got so many letters from coaches.
Really?
So we started going on these visits, not thinking too much of it, but we still had TCU in the back of our minds. And we start getting calls from Memphis, from U of I, from Indiana, from Missouri, from Mizzou, and the rest was history.
Did you feel yourself gradually pulling away from basketball and leaning towards soccer and saying, was there something about soccer you felt like you were better suited for it than basketball, or was it just a love of the game?
Probably better suited. I think in basketball I would have done okay work ethic wise, but I never would have been that player.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to be improving my skills, obviously, and I wanted to be successful on whatever I ended up doing.
Yeah.
Soccer, I think I have a better build for, definitely.
Yeah.
And then as the game persisted, I had played basketball for so long, I was always worried, was I going to hit my cap, my ceiling?
So you felt like there might be a ceiling for basketball, but maybe there's not as much of a ceiling for soccer. That's a really cool self-assessment, because I'm afraid some athletes don't have that. They misassess themselves in ways that I was kind of that way too. I thought I was going to be this, and I should have known my limitations weren't that direction. But that's a really cool thing to have it at such a young age. So you decided to go to Missouri. Why'd you choose Mizzou?
After 7, 8 visits, we had gone and met with different coaches, different personnel, different teams, spent the night at Memphis, U of I, and some of those schools. Mizzou was just a different feel.
So there's a thread throughout this podcast, and I'm not saying you have to say it because that's the thread, but I'm curious. The vast majority of people that played at a college or their kids went off to college and played, they said the visit sold them. Did your visit to Mizzou, did you go there and say, this is it?
Yes.
Wow.
And I was already letter of intent to Memphis.
Yeah. I hear this a lot. There's something about, that's why I encourage my athletes, don't commit, don't lean, go. Go there and get a feel for it, and you hear it over and over, and you had that experience.
Yep.
Yeah, fantastic. Can you explain what it was? Was there something about Mizzou that you said, this is the place?
When I had gone to Memphis, it was awesome. U of I was awesome, but there was something about, there was a restriction essentially for how much my family could be a part of versus what I was a part of. And at Mizzou, they were everything. My
Really?
younger siblings were there through our meal with the coaches. They
Oh.
were there for,
Wow.
we went and watched a game against SLU at the time,
Yeah.
and it was a family-oriented thing. And then obviously the camaraderie with the team, my host for the weekend,
Wow, that matters.
it matters.
It matters. So those coaches that are putting that host with these recruits, that takes some serious thought. I mean, you get the right people to do that. So did you ever do that?
It did.
Awesome. Did they go to school there?
They did.
Didn't mean to put you on the spot. Okay, so you play there. You play at Mizzou. You have a great success there in the Big 12. Talk about what transpired. Your 3 years there. Mm-hmm. What transpired there as you played soccer?
We won 2 Big 12s, one regular season conference, and one was through the tournament, which was awesome. It was at College Station in Texas.
Oh wow! Yeah.
We ended up winning against Kansas 2-1 last game. I had one of the two, but it was just in terms of overall experience.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. Made the NCAA tournament. I think we ended up going Sweet 16 my freshman year. And then next year we came in ranked. And then after my sophomore year, my junior year, we didn't have as many successes. I think we were third in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Ended up getting third in the tournament down in Texas.
Gotcha. Yeah. Big crowds at those tournaments and
Yeah, especially the ESPN games.
Yeah.
Those were big crowds.
That's awesome. Cool. What a cool experience. But you transfer.
I did.
Tell me about that.
So ended up being one of those things where I knew soccer was a hobby, not a career for me.
Right.
And my next step was going to be entrance exam into optometry school.
Okay.
And they required so many hours as basically like an intern per se under different facilities.
Gotcha.
And I had a guy that had gone to optometry school with my father down in Cape Girardeau. He was closer to the Sykeston area, but I was able, contacted him and I said, can I intern? And he gave me some dates. They were in the fall and the spring. SEMO was my first visit that I ever went on originally. So I contacted him, and this was spring break of my junior year.
Yeah.
And I said we had just played them
Oh, really?
in a spring season game.
Yeah.
And we won 3-0.
Yeah.
And I called him and I said, what are your thoughts on if I transferred there? Is there a spot? I don't mind to work for a position. My senior year, I'm coming there basically for my future endeavors.
Yeah.
And the coach at the time ended up saying, I can't talk about this right now. I got to talk to a couple other people because, the recruiting process, they're picky about some things. And they gave me a call back, made me an offer that I couldn't refuse.
Yeah.
And we ended up transferring to SEMO. Best decision.
I love those offers you can't refuse. Those
Yeah.
are pretty good. So how did Mizzou, you had to go in and tell them, I'm leaving. How did they handle it?
We were good on parting terms. He
That is
signed.
great.
Yep.
Yeah, that is so classy that they welcomed you and then they allowed you to go chase your career dream without any guilt trips or anything like that. So you played 1 year at SEMO?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Pretty good year.
Yeah, that was a good year.
I know you won't bring it up, so I have to bring it up. So you won the OVC in your senior season,
We did.
and you got OVC Player of the Year.
I did.
So, I think you knew it was the right decision to begin with. But talk about capping it off and saying, this was good. Tell me about the difference in SEMO from Mizzou, and was it an easy transition? Was it a hard transition?
Very easy.
Yeah.
Very easy just in terms of, again, team family oriented. Had
Yeah.
great friends at Mizzou. Ended up making some of the best friends at SEMO.
Yeah.
Coach-wise, actually, I think the coaches at SEMO, you talk about coaches that made a difference that you remember.
Uh-huh.
Coaches at SEMO, for me, we clicked.
Oh, that's good.
So it was very easy, very
Yeah.
easy.
How did your teammates accept you? I mean, sometimes, everybody wants that good player, but then if you come in and take someone's playing time, maybe they're not so welcoming. Was the player welcoming a good thing?
We had just played them,
Yeah.
and it wasn't a great game for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And so when I went on my visit and they found out that I was coming, I think there was a little bit of standoffishness,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
We've actually talked about it since then. There was an intimidation thing, and they
Yeah.
weren't sure how they felt about me. And
Well, I don't judge them because, I mean, it's a competitive thing. Everybody wants to play. Everybody wants, I mean, you bring in an outsider sometimes, people want to protect their turf,
Yeah.
but it all worked out.
it did.
Yeah. What happened in that season? You won the OVC, and then you go to a tournament after that, or how
We
that-
did. We went to the OVC tournament, and we lost to Moorhead, 2-1 in the final game, in the championship game.
Yeah. You and I talked before we went on the air that you did play some semi-pro after college was over. You still had a desire to play. You just did it for fun. You played over in St. Louis, am I correct?
Yeah.
So tell me about semi-pro soccer.
It was fun. So
Yeah.
it was the WPSL Women's Professional Soccer League, but it was the semi-pro section of it. It's
Yeah.
called Fire and Ice.
Yeah.
They started, I
Cool
think, their
name.
program.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our jerseys were cool too.
Yeah.
They started their program, I want to say 2013. I was there as kind of an original. And
Yeah.
what was fun about it is a lot of the players from Mizzou, from SLU, from SEMO would come play there in the summers because it was more of a summer-fall league.
Yeah.
And it was great. I had never lost the will or want to play, and I
Mm-hmm.
definitely didn't want to be that athlete where they go back after athletics and then you don't recognize them because they're physically just very
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool that, and let's face it, I mean, St. Louis just got a couple of years ago, I think, a professional team, built a beautiful stadium, but it's a big soccer town. There's a lot of good soccer played, so it only made sense that they had a good following and so forth, and so kind of cool you got to play there. So you did that, and then I understand you began your first stint as a coach at UMSL.
I actually started coaching my senior year at SEMO.
Oh, okay.
Started coaching for
Okay.
one of their little club teams down there. Got into it, and then when I was in optometry school, I was playing semi-pro, but I was coaching 2 teams for Gallagher,
Okay.
and I was a grad assistant for UMSL's soccer team.
So the coaching thing starts to come into your life. Either you were drawn to it, or sometimes it's drawn to you. Which was it? It was a little bit of both.
So I wanted to be a grad assistant. I had some extra hours I needed to do at SEMO prior to entering into optometry school. And so
Okay.
I asked the coaches, can I grad assist while we're going through some of these schooling hours? So I'm still a part of it. All the girls that are younger than me, I played with them, were friends. And
Yeah.
after that grad assist year, yeah, I still wanted to be around the game.
Yeah. And that's what happened. I think a lot of coaches, including myself, my playing career ended, of course, at the end of high school. College offers were few and far between, and they were far away if I had any. But I wanted to stay a part of the sport because I know what it meant to my life, and I know how a coach changed my life and how I saw him change a community and a school, and I thought, God, that's such a cool thing, and I wanted to be like him. And yeah, so it's part of the reason I followed that path, I think, was to stay involved in the game that had meant so much to me. So the player to coach transition seems to be easy for you. Did you find it to be an easy transition?
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about the challenges, but so August of 2018, you then balanced this idea of going into your career with your dad. Let's talk about that for a second. So congratulations, it's a big deal.
Thank you.
How many years of school did it take?
4.
Took 4 years. So you do that, and tell us a little bit about your career now and what that means to you, and what do you love about it? What do you like about it?
Absolutely. It's 8 years with undergrad, but 4 years of optometry.
Yeah.
First starting out, it's a new challenge. Because
Yeah.
my dad said, I'm not going to slow down when you start. You got to build your own patient base. So actually what I did very early on was I drove to Salem. And I saw
Hometown
patients
guy,
in
yeah.
Salem.
Yeah, yeah.
And did that for 4 years.
I was proud to drive through Salem a few times to see your name on the sign.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know her. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. Yeah. So you built your own practice.
Mm-hmm.
You built your own patient base, as they say. And so what's the best part of it? Just helping people.
Yeah, all of the above. Patient interaction, helping people, kind of getting to dive into the eye and try to make it something you're really good at, where you can put it in layman terms and describe it to somebody that doesn't maybe understand as much as the big lingo, the terminology, and it kind of clicks for them. That's a good moment for me.
That sounds just like coaching.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
It does.
It does, right? Speaking their language, having a relationship, helping them out, having an impact, explaining the complicated, making it simple so they get it.
And seeing it click.
Yeah, seeing it click. That's very cool. In 2021, you start coaching at Marian High School, and coaching in your hometown can bring challenges. Not for everybody. There's great stories of it. There's also challenges for some people. How has it been for you?
Been fine. Some of the girls, I mean, it's so far out from when I graduated.
Yeah.
Some of them don't even know I went to school there.
Yeah.
Until it's mentioned, or maybe they pass one of the hallways. But
yeah. Isn't that something how soon they forget?
Yep.
Mr. Sinks just told me, I'm teaching summer school, and Mr. Sinks just said, well, you have Coach Martin. The kid looked at him and said, who's Coach Martin? He couldn't wait to tell me that. I said, oh, they'll forget really fast, so they're already forgetting Coach Martin, and that's okay. You were an assistant coach for a while, and then the opportunity comes to become the head coach in 2024. How was that transition? When it's your program, what are some things you did as now you're the head coach, this is my program. What is your mindset when you become the head coach?
You're looking at everything that the program has done in the past, the successes, the failures, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yep.
And I knew, being the assistant with Jessie Wallace, I knew that there were things that worked.
Yeah.
And there were things that didn't.
Yeah.
And I knew the biggest change I wanted to make was to make sure the girls wanted to be there from start to finish.
Yeah.
And they always felt like a priority.
How do you do that? I get it, and that would be a goal if I had to pick a goal. One of the kids to want to be there, and not by the end of the year roll their eyes and say, "Oh, when is this going to be over with?" So, are there specific things you've done to keep that desire to be there, be a part of it, going throughout the season?
I think making them feel like you want to be there too.
Ooh, yeah, good.
Is the biggest thing that keeps them, especially when school is over.
Yeah.
And you're hitting playoffs. You
Yeah.
emphasize the big things that they're doing, the things that people are noticing, how big of a deal it is that they are where they are. Because I know in their head they just want to be like all the other kids and go swim and go on vacation.
Yeah.
You have to make them feel the joy.
You do, and you're dropping some really great little nuggets in here for a fairly new coach. You have a lot of old coaching wisdom, which I mean this is great stuff. So when you look at your program, everyone drops this word culture. We talk about it a lot here. The culture is, as you know, isn't just the X's and O's that take place on the field, but it's the environment of the team. Do you do specific things to create that environment? Do you meet with the players? Are there anything special you do to create a Jessie Crabtree stamp of culture on your program?
You can kind of read the room.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on the team. Like this year, there were moments where I felt like, hey, we're getting into maybe the nitty-gritty of season. We went laser tagging. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And Jessie Wallace is big too about, hey, let's set up a dinner, let's do this. You know, I don't want the girls to feel like it's just all soccer based. What's different about this team than last year? Last year we needed that. We needed to go to dinner and we needed to do these things, I think, to bring out joy. This year, these are the girls that are sad if soccer's canceled. They're sad if the game is canceled.
Love that.
They want 4-hour practices. I know I've got one kid in my mind specifically, and it's just one of those things where you play into their joy.
Yeah.
So if their joy is being there, then I'll have 1 or 2 practices every so often when we have time to do so. That's just fun for them, that they'll look back and remember and have, fond memories of their friends.
That's good.
Yeah.
Really good. And I remember one time we were undefeated at Marian about mid-season, and we had played on a Saturday and we won. And my first thought was, we'll just cancel practice on Monday, give them the day off. They'll have Sunday, Monday off. They can recover. They'll be fresh, and they'll go crazy on that bus when I tell them. So I got on the bus and I said, guys, okay, great game, yada, yada, yada. And I said, hey, you got Monday off. They mutinied. No, they started yelling at me. They're like, we want to practice. And I looked at my coaches and said, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've had teams that would have just celebrated the day off. They wanted to be there, and that meant a lot to me. And it wasn't something I had done, but that group, I couldn't. Now, we went light on that Monday, but
Yeah.
they wanted to be there, and they wanted to be around each other, and that's a big key. Your girls liked each other this year a lot? Yeah.
In soccer, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You had a young team. So what comes up when you're thinking, when you go into the season knowing I got youth and inexperience, but I got some talent? Was there anything you did different that you'll do next year different because they'll have a year of experience, or did you go into it saying this is what we're going to do, or was the teaching process different because there were so many? You had like 5 freshmen and 4 sophomores that started, am I correct?
Yeah, there's a big chunk of them, yeah.
Yeah. Did you have to approach that differently because they were young?
I definitely had to get a feel for what was their game mentality. I can watch you in practice, but
Yeah.
I needed to know their game mentality. So this
Yeah.
season was a happy mixture of easy games, working into hard games.
Yeah.
Next season, I'm going to try to get as many tough games on the schedule as possible. So it's not one of those things where we wait until playoffs before we face somebody that
Yeah.
is hard.
Yeah. That's smart. Yeah, schedule manipulation matters. When you're rebuilding, I always look for maybe we got to find some wins, and then once we hit our stride, trying to find some challenges so the playoffs are not, this big surprise. But I love that. So, how do we move MHS girls soccer to the next level? What do you think it's going to take us? I'm sure you think about this. You're watching this young team. The future looks good. I don't know what the younger classes below this look like. Got some talent coming?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, not to put pressure on you. But what's the next step in the program?
Doing stuff in the off season. I
Yeah.
think that is the lost art between being a great or a good team versus a great team, is the obsession for the sport versus the love for the sport.
Yeah,
I think it was Kobe Bryant that said that.
yeah,
But doing work in the off season, doing
Yeah.
little things. So right now we've not had our banquet yet, but I have written up just a little excerpt for each player on the great things they did and the areas that need improvement.
that's great.
And I've given them basically drills that they can do to apply towards those areas. The ones that do it in the off season, we're going to end up being able to walk in and not build fundamentals, but build off of what they have. And I think their success is pretty high,
Yeah.
futuristically.
Yeah. I'm going to ask coach to coach a couple of questions here. They're not, I didn't send these to you. They're not hard. I'm just out of curiosity. Are your girls sleeping enough? Are they getting enough sleep? Because I can tell you, on a football standpoint, I could not get my players to get enough sleep. Is that an issue for you?
My issue isn't the amount of sleep, it's the time frame for which they sleep. It's the up till midnight, up till 1 a.m.
Well said.
And then
Yes.
once school is out, it's the up till 1 a.m. and sleeping till 11.
Yes. I think, yeah, you stay up till 3 and then you sleep till 11 or 12. That's not the same as going to bed at 10 and getting up at 6 or 7. I agree. Great question. Okay, how about hydration? For me, we had to almost force water our kids. We even had them, we would make them drink water before they left practice. I mean, watch them drink, because I was not a great hydrator as a player. I can't judge them too harshly, but in those early games for us, hydration was key. Is that an issue for you?
Not as much. Now that they have the electrolyte packets and different things,
That's
the girls
great.
are obsessed. They have their waters out there. I have not had one issue with hydration.
Oh, that's good.
Caffeine levels, there's some issues with the caffeine intake
Yeah,
and what the caffeine intake is
Yeah.
with the Alanis and everything that are out.
yeah.
But in terms of supplementation with electrolytes, they're pretty good about that.
That's good. Nutrition? Are they eating the way they should eat?
No.
No. Okay. Well,
I don't know any high school athlete that does.
I think it's a missing part. The reason I'm asking these questions is I have this post-coaching obsession with those things that I think are kind of that missing, for me, the missing ingredient. Everyone's training, everyone's doing speed work, strength work, everyone's watching film, but nutrition and sleep and hydration, I think, can take us to another level. I don't mean us, I mean all sports. And I feel like it's just we're not around them. We can have them do the other things because we're there with them. Those things are off the field stuff. It's a challenge.
The players that I think that can be great, that I see that in them, that fire that exists, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're doing 2 of those 3. They're sleeping, in my opinion, in at least 7-8 hours in the right time frames.
Right.
And they're drinking plenty of water, electrolytes. But the nutrition piece, I don't think it's harped on enough.
Yeah, I don't either. And I think, again, I know some schools are trying to feed their teams more together and so forth, and especially before a match or a game, they're trying to feed. But the reason I ask is because I'm trying to figure out where is that sweet spot of making that a bigger priority among the athletes. Because the coaches, I think, believe in it, but the players don't always follow that. So anyway, that's perfect. So let's talk about your personal life a little bit. Married to Paige Huey, and you've got 2 kids. So tell me about that and how that's changed your life.
Yeah, first son was born June 16th, 3 years ago this year, so he'll be 3 this year.
Yeah.
Tatum.
Yeah.
Easy birth. Son came up as he came out. I watched it over at Carbondale Hospital.
Yeah.
It was a huge blessing, one of the best moments.
Yeah.
Tucker was born 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Wow. So are you one of those parents that says, if they don't want to play sports, I'm completely good with that? Or is that something, man, I am hoping so bad they're an athlete?
Somewhere in between.
Yeah.
I think athletics teach you the ability to depend on others when you need it and let others depend on you. And I think there is a certain type of friendship that exists through athletics.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, it's cool. I think a lot of coaches, some coaches push too hard. Some coaches are afraid to push because they'll get accused of doing it too much. So some really back off, and I think you just got to find that sweet spot and see what your kids want to do. Andrea decided to go to the cheerleading route. David said it's not for me and was a skateboarder, and he was fantastic at it, and that's what he devoted his time to. And it was disciplined, it was physical, and he was dedicated to it, and he got really good. But he didn't want a coach telling him what to do, and that's okay. I tried to follow him in that and help him with that and watch him do it, and so it's all good. But you have really dropped a lot of great wisdom here. For someone that is new to this business, congratulations on a great career. Congratulations on embracing this profession and having so much strong self-assessment and wisdom so early in your career, Jessie, because that is a big deal, and you've got it down right now. Keep it up.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And I'm gonna tell on you just a little bit, because at the end, when I ask you for your bio, I love the way you ended it. A life full of blessings, and you said, I've got a full heart. Man, I'm so glad you added that, because I think, given all this podcast was about revealing who people really are, the coaches, the person of the coach, not just the name and the whistle, and the title and the whistle. And I love the fact that you are embracing this coaching in your career and family, and I love the fact that you added that. So thanks.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hey, we're glad you joined us. We appreciate Jessie willing to be here and share so much of her heart and her wisdom with us today. I want to thank Crown Brew again, Ross and Abby, Swinford Media, the wedding videography they do, my buddies at Adrenaline Fundraising, and Tony Gooch at Marian Plumbing, and appreciate all of you for tuning in, the positive feedback, the suggestions I get, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks.